Hello everybody, how is it going? So, prepare yourselves. We got quite a long match today. We have Law versus Queen, and Queen passing turn 1, Law playing a Usopp turn 2 and passing it back. That is all that's happened so far. But, yeah, Queen matches, at least against decks that can kind of sustain themselves, even decks that, like, honestly, I think just against every deck, Queen just will take a while. It's just how he plays. You don't really attack their leader unless you have to. And, yeah, so I'll let you guys know now. This is a long match, so prepare yourselves. But I think someone was asking me the other day what deck did well into Queen, and I immediately assumed Law and Zoro, having a lot of early game pressure, and I think I still stand by that point. I think Law just is really good at going wide, and so is Zoro, and that's just what you need to do in this matchup, because kind of once Queen gets you in the loop of you only have one or two characters, if usually just like one attacker and their leader, they pretty much can't die because they'll always have 2 life, or usually have 2 life, and the next turn they'll remove one of your attackers that you established last turn and then heal again, and it's the loop until you run out of resources. But yeah, Law being pretty good at reestablishing his board and finding pieces, and he can pretty much establish kind of like 2 attackers every turn because of his leader effect, and yeah, just makes sense that he would be pretty good. You know, it's not uncommon you swing with your little bodies, which again threatens Queen, especially when he has to be low on cards and life. So the little swings do matter a lot. They do matter a lot. But Law playing down a Nami Searcher, picking up a Brook, and then playing Rush Zoro, not swinging. Obviously don't want to give Queen something to swing at if you don't have to. Our Queen player having 3 3,000 worlds, which is really good in this matchup. Just saying no to whatever Law established is always nice. But yeah, he actually plays Perona, which is cool too. Perona just always kind of being a card you can throw into blue decks just to see what you have on your top of your deck. Kind of like a pseudo searcher, you know what you're going to see. It's really solid. Obviously most builds are just playing like the Dofi blocker that does that, but Perona definitely still being solid, and in this matchup being able to trade with Law's little bodies whenever he swings with them is also pretty good. And he's kind of fidgeting his hand around a lot. We saw a Soga King, I saw a Red Rock, so those are at least 2 cards we can expect to see. Obviously we'll see his draws. And then he will 3,000 worlds to Zoro. That's funny. Passing it back to Law. I do like the Usopp inclusion. It's very interesting. It's unfortunate that Usopp can only draw during your turn when they activate an event. So in this matchup, it's probably not going to get the value that you're looking for. But it's also, again, just a little attacker, which is never bad. It's also just a body on Law's board, which is never bad. But, yeah. So far, Law he doesn't have any blockers yet, Law blockers. Does have 2 restand Laws, but that's going to be a bit hard to find value until you have a body that will stick. At least you can just play it, and it's a 6k vanilla, which isn't the worst, but obviously you want to get some value out of it if you can. His hand doesn't have a bunch of 1-drops to try to use leader effect this turn. I think I was mathing it out. He could play Bonnie no effect, Otama, and the Brook that he's holding, but it's just not worth it, because you're just then establishing the Law body, and it can just get bounced or bottom decked, and I don't feel like it's worth putting all that down. But he will play the Brook. He's going to put 2 Dawn on lead, attack for 7. Queen will take, potentially getting a trigger here. We love triggers. I imagine the Law player will just want to establish the Robin this turn, and then next turn we can hopefully get our leader effect online, maybe find a blocker Law with the Bonnie, hopefully. But Queen will trigger Sanji. Sanji is a great card. Blocker from life, having a good stat line that if you want to attack with it, you definitely can. And Law will play down the Robin and pass. I originally was like, oh, why didn't he put a Dawn? on Usopp when I was watching this, but it's because Usopp is only during your turn, which is unfortunate. Because that'd be some really nice value if you can just stick one on Usopp, and then when they use their removal spell, you just draw one. Like, that'd be sweet. But going back to Queen, he should be on, it's either, I believe it's 7 Dawn, right? Math is hard. Let's see, Law played 5 and then has 1 up. Yeah, so he should be on 7. Yep, and he taps 7 to play the Soga King, bouncing back the Robin. That's, yep, that's solid. Gets a little bit of cycle in, he knows what he's drawing into because of the Perona. Trashes a 3000 Worlds and a Red Rock. He still has another 3000 Worlds, so I can understand dropping one, but that card is really solid into this matchup. But as we get to these later turns, Queen is definitely going to want to start playing his top end rather than, you know, just 3000 Worlds. So now Law being on 8 Dawn, he definitely can get his leader established this turn, and he's going to start it off by playing a Bonnie and using her effect, obviously hoping for the blocker Law here, because it will let him keep his Bonnie, and he does find it. You'll love to see it. There's also a Basil in there, a Rad Beam, Otama, and Dawn. He's going to put Basil all the way in the bottom. We don't want to see him, which is definitely fair, because all your other 5 drops can kind of trade up with removal, but Basil will just get played and then bottom decked or lifed or, yeah. So yeah, Basil is kind of never sticking around in this matchup. But now Law still having 6 Dawn to work with, can replay down the Robin, but I imagine he'll just bounce into it with Blocker Law. So just needs to play one more card to kind of set up his leader effect. Not sure, I can't really see what his hand is covering here. I think it's the Dawn Nami. He's gonna go 5 at life. Yeah, it is the Dawn Nami. So I'm gonna assume he's just gonna play the Dawn Nami. Yeah, 5 at life. Queen will counter for 2. That's solid. He can definitely swing with one of his little bodies this turn, especially with the Luffy effect Nami, whatever you want to call it, the starter deck Nami. And he will play it, still having, I believe it's 5 Dawn active, and can re-equip one with the Nami. So maybe a swing with the Brook or the Usopp, because, you know, they're both 2Ks, wouldn't mind bouncing them back to hand. So yeah, uses her effect, gives Brook a Dawn, give him another Dawn, attack for 5. Queen having 1k worth of counter in hand, so if he wants to counter this, he can. We'll put him in the 4 total range for his leader effect, because he'd just have to play the Katakuri next turn, and then he can swing with lead and regain a life. That's what we love to see. So I would imagine countering is a good idea here. And he does end up taking the 1k counter. Agreed. Seems solid, seems solid. Now Law can use leader effect, probably pick up Brook, and then pick up Bonnie and play the Robin. That sounds like the play. He's going to tap 2. Thinking about it here. Maybe picking up the Nami. I think I remember seeing this, and I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts on this play. He does pick up the Nami, plays down Blocker Law, takes back the Bonnie, and plays down the Robin. And we'll pass with 2 up, probably. Nothing really else to do. So the reason I don't love this, and I think he should have just bounced the Brook, is that you're playing against Queen, and basically Queen will lose this game if this turn he doesn't answer this Blocker Law. Like, he's always playing a top end here, your Blocker Law is gonna go, and yeah, that's just how it is. So I think that leaving the Brook there just gives him kind of like a free swing without giving you any cards for no reason. Because right here, I think, like, if he just bounced the Brook and left the Nami, yeah, your Law still goes to life. But now if he wants to attack with his leader, he has to give you a card. But I believe instead he's going for the Brook, which means you're kind of down 2 bodies when you could have just been, you know, down 1, which you were always going to lose that Law, and you'd have an extra card in hand. So that's why I don't love him taking back the Nami. I understand wanting the Nami to have in hand to kind of rebuild your board, but you still had a Bonnie, and you would still have the Brook. So, like, at worst, if he cleared 2 bodies, you would just play down the Brook, and it's fine. Let you swing with your Usopp if you want. But it is what it is. Law will play down the Bonnie. Obviously, we just want more Blocker Laws. Sees another Bonnie, sees a Basil. Yeah, I agree. Take the Bonnie. Basil will never get to play the game. No reason to grab him. Rest of the cards, just it's Chopper, Robin, Otama, and the Basil. I imagine, yeah, Basil is still just going on the bottom. Isn't going to be able to do anything this game. So it is nice that he has the extra Bonnie, so it's okay if the one on field dies or whatever. I imagine he'll probably just play either the Chopper or the Nami, search or just leave the blocker up and then bounce whatever he decides to swing with. Maybe not the Robin. The Robin will probably stay on field if he swings with it. And yeah, if he decides to swing with like the Usopp, he'll probably take that back. He also does have Otama in hand, which could be good too. You could let him pop the Sanji, and I think that's what he's going for. Yep, so minus his 2 to the Sanji, and can just clear that with a 5k swing from Robin, which is always nice. Queen having no counter in hand, so he's just going to take this life. Not much to think about, but maybe just wants to make it seem like his opponent, or like he has counter to his opponent, but he doesn't. We know, obviously his opponent doesn't. Picks up a Soga King off life, which is, it's fine. It's a 1k counter. That's like the nicest thing about Soga King, is that he's kind of basically a top end that also has counter and like cycles your deck, even though he's not very big. He's only a 6k, but 6k is still it's a sturdy body. Law thrives off 6k bodies, so take that what you will. But Law will give the rest of Dawn with the Nami to the Usopp, and then just one more, and attacks for 5. And Queen will use that 1k counter to get out of that. And I imagine we'll just, swing with lead, and then use 2 of our Dawn to take back the Usopp and restand the Bonnie. Alternatively, we could just take back the Otama, because Otama has a ton of value in this matchup. Otama just always has a ton of value against any matchup, honestly. It's literally like a removal spell. Like, it's so crazy. So yeah, we take back the Otama. I don't disagree with that. We'll probably end up losing the Robin and the Usopp, but we still have that utility. And that's chill. That's chill. Still 2 Dawn active. So we maybe could have swung a bit bigger with the Usopp. Maybe just go like 6 on him and then 7 on our leader. Just to maybe take more life. Because I think, yeah, he wouldn't have been able to counter out of the Usopp hit. And then he maybe could have countered out of the 7k hit from leader, depending on what he found off life. So, might have been a better play. But once again, Law is probably going to get Katakuri'd, and the restand Law will go in life. Not to be seen until the very end of the game. Queen swinging 3k at the Usopp with the Perona. That's what I'm talking about. That's that Perona value. Still having... He's at 10 Dawn, right? Yeah, so he still has 9 Dawn to work with. Gonna go 6 at the Robin. That'll go. Then he has 8 Dawn for the Katakuri and 1 Dawn for leader. That's lit. So yeah, we'll Katakuri the restand Law, put it at the bottom. And then he will swing 6 at life and regain a life. So Law will, I think, always take this hit. Because why wouldn't you? Potentially getting a trigger here. Law plays very few triggers. Like, it's usually just Rad Beam. Rad Beam is your only trigger, but he is actually playing Jet Pistol, which is a ton of value right there. That is really good for the Law player. He cannot complain about that. So yep, Law going to 10 Dawn, grabs another Chopper. We still have the Bonnie, and we have the Bonnie on the field, so it's pretty likely we'll find a blocker Law this turn. I don't think he's bottom decked any of them. At least I haven't seen him bottom deck any of them. So we'll hope he finds one. Finds a Zoro, which is honestly still just as good. Could potentially allow him to get some value on the restand Law he has in hand, which sounds good. If we're going that route though, I think he shouldn't play the other Bonnie, because we don't want to sack both of them off, because that is very important to our grind game with Queen. So yeah. Alternatively, he could like just bounce a Bonnie into the Zoro, which is a play. I don't love it, but he could do it. But ends up using Nami effect and giving leader a Dawn, attacking for 6. The Queen will drop a 2k to get out of that. Also, we get the crazy camera perspective. I love that they do this. It's it's really cool. It's POV. You are the Law player. Sadly, we didn't get a good see it, what he searched there. We get to see it now. He grabs a Bonnie. I can't quite see what else was there. I see a Usopp. I think there's a Rush Zoro in there. I don't know. Camera kind of avoiding it, I swear. But we can definitely get our leader ability back online this turn. I'd imagine we're just gonna like play the Zoro, attack, and then like bounce into the restand law, because we have another Bonnie now and it doesn't super matter. So Queen will take that 5k and get a Boa trigger, which is always good. It's a blocker we play for free and keeps our hand size low for our leader effect. Kind of exactly what we want, Queen, quite honestly. Those two cards, Boa and Brule, fit super well in this type of deck. The Law will tap 1, play down the Nami, look at the top 5, see what he finds. Maybe a whiff. Yeah, that's kind of, that'll definitely happen. I feel like if you play 2 Bonnies and you don't see a single restand law and you know you haven't bottom decked any, that upcoming search is so scary, because you could just bottom deck 2 of your blocker laws. But he's gonna have to hold that one. He will bounce into the restand law, and still has 1 Dawn remaining. Yeah, he doesn't swing with the Zoro, which I agree with. We want to preserve as much of our board as we can. Don't want to just let them die to the Katakuris. Our Bonnies will probably get cleared, but that's okay, because we still kept 1. And sadly, I don't know if that one's going to find a blocker law, because we just bottom deck 2. We have 1 in life, so we have maybe 1 more somewhere close to the top of our deck. If not, it's in our life, which is kind of worst case scenario. But Queen not having any top end to play this turn. He has a Red Rock, a 3000 Worlds, and it looks like the other Boa blocker, I'm pretty sure. The 4-drop Boa blocker. But he'll clear a Bonnie with the Perona. The Perona putting in the pain, I swear. Still has, could swing with this Katakuris this turn if he's feeling comfortable enough to do that. He's going to clear the other Bonnie with the Boa blocker on field, which is, yeah, good play. I like it. Yeah, especially if he plans on playing the Boa he has in hand. Might as well swing at that one. And is Law really going to want to clear the 1k blocker? Like late game, in a game like this, I feel like dedicating one of your swings to that blocker feels pretty bad. Unless you're swinging with the Nami that Law has, then I think it's okay. But he could, this turn, the Queen player, use all of his Dawn to tap out and bottom deck both the Zoro and the Law, but then he won't be able to heal, and he could randomly get cheesed by like a big Nami swing and then like a 7-8k leader swing. So I imagine he'll probably take the safer route. Oh no, that couldn't even happen. Oh wait, yes it could, because he wouldn't be able to heal if he did the route I was talking about. Yeah, never mind. So yeah, that's a little bit of a risky play, so I agree with him not doing that. And he is actually giving Law some of his life. This will kind of give Law a second wind, I think. So we had another restand Law in life and a Bonnie, so that's going to be really good. Queen will 3000 Worlds the restand Law, and then tap 4 to play the Boa blocker. Probably going to sack off the Kaya, because it makes the most sense. It's just a 0k body on board. He'll give the Dawn to the Boa, and he will pass it back. So, Law is definitely hoping to find his last blocker Law. Quote-unquote last. Like, eventually he will find the other 2 Laws that got bottom deck, but it's quite a couple searches away. And I don't know if he's keeping track of how many he did, but it would be around 7 searches away. So here is 1. Let's see what he finds off this one. Immediately the blocker Law. So there was the other one that was close to the top of our deck, so good that he found it. We'll definitely keep him in the game. Also really good because he actually kept the Zoro on field, so it'll get some extra value this turn as well. The rest of his turn, I mean, we could play the Bonnies. Okay, so he's going to swing 1 at the Boa blocker. Agreed. We can play our other Bonnies, but it's like, what are we even trying to find with them is my question. Also, one thing I'd want to mention, we haven't seen a single Veggie this turn, or this game. So he might not even be playing Veggie, which is interesting. Like, I've always thought of just completely cutting Veggie for other cards that I think are better. And also, I was listening to this just because I was curious what happened. He meant to play Otama, but he played down the chopper by accident, and they do make him keep the chopper there, which is unfortunate, but it is a bigger tournament, so yeah, he's gonna have to accept that. He just misclicked in real life. I thought that was really funny. Like, how does that even happen? But he's probably just stressed out. This game is not going to be easy for either ends, honestly. So it's also, a bigger tournament. So nerves will always get to you. It happens. But yeah, the real life misclick. But he does play down the Otama now and swing 6 at the Katakuri. Which, yeah, Queen can't defend unless he wants to block. But then Law will get to clear 2 bodies, basically, because he still has the Zoro swing. And he would have an extra swing with the blocker Law he searched. And the Queen knows about it, so I think correctly letting that first Katakuri go. So Law has a couple options this turn. I imagine we still kind of want to keep our Otama, especially now that we kind of will be able to replay the Zoro and a blocker Law, so we maybe will be able to use our restand Law next turn to hopefully clear something, or just keep going life. So yeah, he's gonna swing 5 at life. I don't think there was a great route to I can't see how much Dawn. I think he has 5 Dawn left. Let's see. He played I can barely keep track. It's hard, but I'm pretty sure it was 5 Dawn left. So he could have went 3 on Zoro, attack Katakuri for 8, and then that would have been met with the block, and then you could have went 8 again at it with the restand Law instead of the blocker Law, and maybe got a card out of hand. But that route would have cleared the Boa, which I guess is nice. But I think the route he takes here with just going for life will still clear the Boa. He can go 8 at the Katakuri if he wants, but because you already gave him a life, he might have counter now, when previously he might not have. So he's actually just going to go 7 at life, which means that if he did draw any counter, he can't counter out of this. So the Queen will block with Boa, pick up a Mihawk, and just let the Boa go. That's fair. And then Law will pass it back. So in a better spot than he was, having the blocker Law. Still could get his board cleared though, quite honestly, because the Queen did just see a Mihawk. So that'll deal with the blocker Law. You can go 8 at the Zoro, you can go 6 at the Zoro, and the Zoro will probably live because of the chopper blocker, so that is something. I'm also kind of curious if having more of the 1-drop blockers in this matchup would be good for Law. I imagine that it would be, because we haven't seen any veggies at all, but I think it wouldn't matter a ton, just because most of the removal the Queen has been doing has either been putting stuff in the life or bottom decking it, so he probably wouldn't have been able to save his more important stuff because that would just get removed by other cards. Yeah, it is interesting. I didn't think about that at first, but he probably isn't playing any veggies, so that's an idea for Law in this format. What if we just got rid of Veggie? But Queen will tap 9, plays down the Mihawk, we'll bottom deck the blocker Law, and we'll clear the Bonnie with the Perona. This Perona has gotten infinite value, no cap. So he still has a 8k swing and a 6k swing, so I'll go 8 at Zoro. We will use the chopper blocker. I don't think there's a reason not to, because if he goes 6 at Zoro, that's an easy defend. But if the Queen player is smart, he will go 6 at the Nami, and that'll clear basically all of Law's board other than the Zoro. And that is what he does, so well played, well played. So now going back to Law's turn, only having a Zoro left on his board, but Queen only having a 2k counter in hand, and we still kept our Otama, so we could potentially clear the Katakuri this turn. It's it's so interesting. I feel like, I don't know, I think Law is such a cool deck, and I feel like unironically for being such an aggressive deck, its grind game is super good. When you're forced to play against Croc or Queen, or these other slow decks that kind of slow you down constantly, you can still stay in the game for a very long time. But he plays down the Nami, finds a Rush Zoro, which is very good. We just need attackers this turn, and I feel like Rush Zoro is one of the better cards into this matchup because we play it, and we immediately get an attack with it, and that is very good because if it's like, say we just played a 3k vanilla, I mean, it'll just get bottom decked or something. So, Rush Zoro, all the way from OP01, still best card, vanilla statted Rush card. Are there any others like Zoro that are vanilla stats and also have Rush? The yellow Katakuri does, but it's conditional Rush. I'm trying to think now. What else has Rush? Shanks? No. 9 would be a 911, I think. Not like that, though. It sounds wrong. But yeah, 9 cost 11,000 power. Come on. Yeah, I think he might be the only vanilla statted Rush character, which is kind of cool. So Queen does defend the Katakuri. Sorry, I got distracted by Rush cards. Okay, so the second 6k swing will clear the Katakuri. Law still having a lot to work with. Still has that other Rush Zoro, which he will play down and swing 5 at life. Queen having no counter will take that hit and gets a little blocker Law, which also has no counter, so that's pretty good. Law will play down the Chopper blocker, use leader effect, take back the Otama, play down the restand Law, and restand the Zoro, and swing 6 one more time. Queen is forced to take it, maybe just trying to bait that he has counter in hand. And yeah, he takes it, potentially getting a trigger. Okay, he gets a red rock trigger, which is very good. I think definitely what he needed to see, because next turn he would have been able to Mihawk the restand Law, clear one of the Zoros with his Mihawk. Sorry, let him Mihawk, and then swing 6 at the other Zoro, which would have stuck because of the blocker. Or they both could have potentially stuck because of the Chopper blocker, so that trigger actually meant a whole lot. But Queen will go 9 at, I assume, the Zoro or life, either one. Might be going life here, I'm not sure. I imagine not, he's just going Zoro. So yeah, it goes 8 at the Zoro. We will probably counter out, I think. Queen still having 6 Dawn remaining. I think you have to counter out of this, don't you? Because you know that the 6 Dawn will probably be a Red Rock or 3000 Worlds, either one. But if you counter out, can you still build up your board next turn? He still has Nami, Bonnie, Otama, so yeah, he could, but he opts to let it go, which is fair. I kind of would want to try to keep one of the attackers there because of actually, you know, this turn, oh wait, no, the the blocker Law gets dropped. But if he kept the Zoro, he could have went much wider because he has a Makino in hand. But he would have had to drop the Makino to defend the Zoro, so maybe it's correct to just let it go. I don't know. It's kind of a weird scenario where either way, maybe you just drop the Otama instead of the Makino, and you just try to go for game this turn with the Zoro. You keep the Nami with the Makino boost and your leader. I don't think it's the worst idea, honestly, but you could just lose to a trigger. Like, that is always possible. So, you can never really know. But that was a line. And coming up on time here, it might not have been the worst idea. But he will Otama the Mihawk, still having 7 Dawn remaining. So he can, once again, build up the board, but he doesn't have access to a blocker Law or a restand Law, it just has the Hawkins. So this Nami just kind of needs to find him like a Rush Zoro, which would be just like best case. Because that Basil is not going to do anything, quite honestly. Alright, we'll see what he ends up going for. He might take a swing at the Mihawk. I feel like it's almost not worth taking a swing at the Mihawk. Plays down another Nami. And finds the Rush Zoro. So, I feel like you maybe just keep swinging life here. Because he still has... He used 4 Dawn, so he has 6 Dawn remaining. So you could use 1 for the Makino. Give Nami 5. He could swing... like 6 with lead, 7 with Nami, and then bounce into Zoro and swing 7. I don't know if that's the best route, but he decides to go 7 at the Mihawk, and it will be defended with the Veggie, and then he'll tap 1, play down, see what he plays. something going on. Oh, I think it's because they just hit time. They're just explaining the time rules. So I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I believe Law is turn player, and then it goes to Queen, and then it goes back to Law. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So, yeah. Law still, I assume, is just going to tap the 1. Definitely thinking about tapping this 1. Has 4 Dawn remaining. I'm trying to think if he could have gone for game with the Machina. If he defended... I think he could have went for game if he defended that Zoro and then had the Machina. You know, drop the Otama instead of the Machina. But he does play the Machina, boost up the Nami, and attacks for 5 at life now. Queen will take, and it's not a trigger, so I think the route I was thinking of would have worked out. But because Queen still has this blocker, it will be used here, and then Law will pass it back. So now Queen is kind of forced to apply some pressure because they're in time. This is kind of like his last turn. And then I believe it goes back to Law. I think. Can't confirm. But we'll see what he ends up going for. Law having 2, 3, 4,000 worth of counter in hand. So if he thinks the Queen is going for game this turn, he should be able to live. Because, you know, I don't think there'll be a correct number for Queen to go for here. Because all Law needs is just like the Nami to stick, and he can go for game. Potentially. Like, especially if Queen is going for game this turn, the Machino should stick around, and so will the active Nami. His whole board should stick for Law, so Law just has to survive this turn. And even like, alright, so let's say he counters the first hit. If it's Mihawk, he can't counter it. And then if he goes 9 again, he can't counter it. But whatever is left that he puts on the Perona, he should be able to counter out of, and then the Law should just win. So yeah, Queen swinging 8. So Law can counter out of this, and maybe you wait to counter out of it, just so he doesn't go for any of your board. But I don't even think Queen can clear enough to go for your board, or like prevent you from going for game. Let's see though, he goes 9 again at life with the Mihawk. Law does have to take this because he only has he can get himself exactly 2 9k, so he has to take this. And then Queen has 7 Dawn remaining, which means the Perona is going at his life for 9, and he can counter this. So yeah, 7 Dawn on Perona, attacks for 9, and he only drops 4k worth of counter, and he has the 5th k in hand for the restand Law, and the Queen wins. I was very confused when this happened. I wasn't sure if it was time rules or he actually just forgot to drop the 1k restand Law in hand. Like, I was so confused. If you guys have any insight, let me know. I'm gonna attribute it to time rules, but it definitely looked like Law had enough counter to get out of that swing. But anyways, thank you guys for watching.